Oswald, what are the best resources for learning Dutch? Hardest language ever. So I don't know, Victoria, or?
Yeah, sure. Well, for starters, I guess it's quite an important question. If you're considering a move to the Netherlands, you want to make sure that you are prepared to take on the task of learning Dutch. Luckily, there are loads and loads and loads of language schools across the Netherlands. In all of the big cities, they offer in-person classes, but also more of them, especially after COVID, have started offering more online classes and options for online learning. So there are loads. You can take a look at the long list of Dutch courses and Dutch language schools that offer Dutch classes on the IMEXPAT website. So I think the link is about to be shared, so you can take a look there. On top of that, obviously, there are other opportunities for learning Dutch. A lot of the municipalities, especially the bigger cities, so I know for a fact that Amsterdam offers this, and a lot of libraries as well offer free or quite cheap language classes for internationals that have recently relocated. So it's definitely worth looking to take a look what's happening in your local area and whatever opportunities there might be, especially if you're wanting to sort of do it on a budget, because language classes could perhaps be quite a big expense to take on if you've just relocated. On top of that, it's quite important to note that taking on language classes can be quite a big time commitment. So on top of the money, you'd have to be putting aside quite a few hours a week to the classes, homework, whatever else you might need to be doing to keep up with what you need to be learning. So if you've recently relocated, take that into consideration, because it can be quite a lot to get to grips with when everything is new and you're trying to get a handle on what's going on in the country just as a whole. On top of that, there are loads of free learning resources online. There are loads of websites that you could use. There's one site in particular, I think it's Volvo.com, that is quite popular because it's quite good at helping people get to grips with Dutch pronunciation, which I think is something that a lot of internationals can particularly find difficult. All of the vowels and the hard sounds are not always something that comes naturally to a lot of people. So stuff like that can be really useful. And there are language cafes as well that are free, where you can buddy up with someone and put your language skills to use, which is quite practical, because finding the time to practice, as I'll mention in a bit, finding the time to practice, especially if you live in one of the cities, can be quite difficult, because a lot of Dutch people speak very good English, and they're more than willing to go over into English as soon as they hear that your Dutch is maybe not your first language, or that you're not that confident in your Dutch. They will immediately say, oh, it's okay, we can speak English, which isn't great if you're trying to practice and learn. So that's definitely worth something taking into consideration. Finally, it's maybe a bit of a silly tip, but it's a good one. Watching shows and films on streaming platforms, stuff like Netflix, there are loads and loads and loads of Dutch shows and Dutch films that maybe aren't things that you would naturally be drawn to, but it's a really fun way, I suppose, to start hearing the language and start familiarizing yourself with some of the vocabulary. Dutch podcasts as well, or podcasts specifically targeted at internationals wanting to learn Dutch. So one that I've definitely heard recommended is called Een beetje Nederlands, and it's for intermediate level learners who are trying to learn Dutch. So lots and lots and lots of resources there. But to sum up, there are a lot of ways to learn Dutch if you want to make the effort and you want to try.